Hey guys, how are you doing? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about aspects pertaining to variables outside of League of Legends. And today, the topic of discussion is going to be the root of all tilt, right, in League of Legends. Why do we tilt? How do we tilt? How to address it through actual practices, and what actually tilt, the real reason why we actually tilt, right? Now, obviously I'm not going to talk about the amygdala and not being under control of it, or the prefrontal cortex and all that nonsense. I'm not a neurologist. I don't know any of these terms, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people don't, and I don't care for them. And so the things that I want to talk about today are all going to be examples that have worked for myself and a lot of people, and we'll also talk about actual practices that you can do to try to begin to master your own mind, essentially, right? Because when it comes to League of Legends, there is the mental aspect and then there is the physical aspect. Both aspects, when it comes to being a very strong athlete, or whatever in this case, requires you to have both a strong mental grip of the situation along with a refined physical, right? Meaning you have to have the right mindset and the good mental thought processes along with the mechanics and the physical requirements to be able to perform the task. So today we're going to talk about the root of all tilt. So let's first discuss really what is tilt, right? So when we tilt, usually, let's say that we're playing our solo queue games and we're the mid laner or whatever, and our jungle runs it the hell down, right? Or our jungle shows up and he breaks our freeze, or our jungle just decides to do something absolutely stupid, invade somewhere and then get killed, and then force everyone to the fight and then get 2 other people killed. That induces tilt. Now the reason we're tilting though, and anytime someone is frustrated, usually the most logical response to that is to try to find a solution, right? Sorry for my writing, by the way. I'm not it's to try to find a solution. Now the problem is you're not able to locate a solution because you don't control what your jungler does. So then this essentially becomes frustration, right? So now we're really frustrated. And so now this is where essentially we start tilting, right? So tilt essentially comes from the loss of control, right? We don't control all of our situations, and because we don't control the situation at hand and we see a problem and we're unable to come up with a solution because of the loss of control, it will always lead to frustration, and that's where tilt comes in. Okay? So now the way League of Legends works is obviously there's different ideas of the game, right? So everyone has their own different ideas of the game. And so what ends up happening sometimes, a lot of the times, is these ideas begin to clash. But then these ideas become different the higher on the ladder you go. So let me explain. So the first concept to be able to determine and understand is that you're tilting because logically you're trying to find a solution for the mishaps in the game, aren't able to do it because you literally don't control what your teammates do, and because of the loss of control, it then forces you in this state of frustration, which then eventually leads to tilt. Now obviously there's things you can do, right? There's certain meditation practices you can do to try to approach this, right? But I want to talk more about the logistics of what's happening in your games so that you can begin to understand it more. Now, the reason I'm explaining the next thing that I'm about to explain is for you to be able to know why it is you're tilting and why tilting is a very natural thing for many players the lower on the ladder they go. Now, because you're tilting, you can't find a solution, you have lost the control, which then leads to frustration. The remedy for this, the actual solution, actually, for all of this, is simply just having knowledge. Right? If you are knowledgeable of the situation around you, then because you have the knowledge, you don't feel this loss of control, which then doesn't lead you to this type of frustration that you might have. So in order to increase knowledge, there's two ways we can approach this, right? The first thing, as I mentioned, is meditative practices. The second thing is, if you're not into that, just learn the game more, understand the game more, spot out your own teammates' mistakes, acknowledge that they made a mistake, and know that if you keep playing, obviously your skills will it'll bypass the mistakes of the people around you over time. Perhaps you'll lose the one game, but you won't lose like 3 or 4 in a row, right? And just like stuff like this, there's a number of several concepts that you may not be aware of, which you're simply just tilting because you just lack the knowledge. So in order to essentially be able to remedy this whole issue of frustration and loss of control and not able to find a solution, that thus leading to tilt, is just being able to be more knowledgeable about the game. So let's say that we have a League of Legends queue pop up. Okay, so we have player 1, all right, we have player 2, all right, we have player 3, we have player 4. I need a 5th one. I'll draw it here. Player 5. Okay, so here's our 5 League of Legends players, right? And they're all in like silver. Okay, these are our silver. These are silver 4 teammates. Okay. Now, all of these guys, the way they made it to silver from bronze or iron, if they're that low, is they've concocted some idea of League of Legends that they follow. Everybody has their own idea of League of Legends, just like everyone in life has their own experiences of life or perspectives. And so all of these guys have their own idea. Now, the difference between life and League of Legends is that life has multiple solutions. League of Legends is a finite game without many solutions. Rather, the game is played correctly or incorrectly, right? Right? So, with that being said, let's say that these players all have... So this guy here has... This guy's idea of League of Legends could be like, X, Y, Z, whatever, right? This guy's could be like A, B, C, right? And this guy's could be like whatever, right? Like, I don't know. So everyone has their own idea of League of Legends. So now what ends up happening is when you're in game and you're playing and your one teammate does something that doesn't correspond with the second player's idea of League of Legends, that's when frustration happens, because neither of these players are knowledgeable about the actual game. Now there is an actual game, which is let's define the actual game, right? Let's just do AG for actual game as the correct way, right? The correct way to play, and we can define this as let's say like high elo, right? Let's say this is like high MMR like thought processes. Okay, so with that being said, these two players' ideas are consistently clashing, thus going back to the idea of not having knowledge, not being able to control the situations around them, eventually leading to tilt, because there is no physical solution that these players can determine. Likewise, we have 3 more players, all with skewed ideas of League of Legends, clashing amongst each other. And if not silver, then gold or platinum. These players will begin to start fighting with each other. And the reality of the situation is, if player A and player B are arguing with each other, chances are neither of them are actually correct. They're just clashing their own ideas of League of Legends. So, if you are in brackets like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, low, mid, diamond, don't argue with your teammates. If you don't fully understand the game, and they don't fully understand the game, what the hell are you arguing for? Right? There's no point. And you can't blame them because it's not their fault. They don't know any better. When you go into League of Legends, you are essentially dealing with 4 other players. And let's say you watch my videos, right? Let's say you watch, a bunch of content, and maybe you're like the outlier, and you know a lot, but you're not able to do much as a lot of people are. Then you should be mature and knowledgeable enough to know that the people around you will not be half as knowledgeable as you might be after watching and absorbing tons of content. And so don't try to fight your philosophy, and don't try to talk to people who have no concept of the actual correct way to play the game, because just like you, they don't, or just like them, they don't really know what's the right way, and so they're gonna assume that the correct way, again, we're gonna refer it as AG, the actual game, is just another weird variation of someone's random concocted idea of the game. And so argument doesn't really come to question with this regard, right? So that's essentially the whole dilemma, right, when it comes to lower MMR gameplay, and I guess, like, I don't know, you can call it politics within the team, right? So now let's talk about high elo, right? So again, I'm not gonna draw out a bunch of people, like, whatever, we got 5 individuals, right? Oh my god, I'm terrible at this. We got 5 individuals, and these guys, they're all like 400, 500, 600, 700 LP, right? They're like, whatever. They're pretty high MMR players. So now what they're aware of is they're aware of AG. They're aware of the actual game. And so when an issue happens, most of the time they all are in complete agreement. That's why in higher MMR games, FFs, forfeits, are more prevalent, versus in lower tier games where people may not forfeit, because player A in a lower elo game may assume it's winnable even though it's really not, but he doesn't know any better. But when it comes to high MMR, and this isn't even has to be high MMR, it could even just be Master or Diamond 1, really, or it could be like relatively medium level gameplay. The players are still aware of when to forfeit. They're able to understand the actual game, see the game for what it is, and then call a vote relative to the state of that game. And so now toxicity actually decreases a little bit, right? And it becomes a little bit different now. So what is happening now is that because the players are so invested, they still have their own idea of well, first of all, because they still have their own variation of the actual game, this may still begin to falter, right? So let's say we have player 1 who has actual game 1, that's his idea of League of Legends, and then we have like player 5 who has like actual game version 2. Now obviously we did say that there is only one way to play the game, the correct way or the incorrect way, but now what ends up happening is these players are still finding different variations of the game, except the difference between the players in high MMR and in low MMR is that the players in high MMR have they have games that are still relatively corresponding. The ideas are still corresponding with each other, and so now arguments become debates, right? Or frustrations become like, okay, like, why would you do this? What was this player thinking? What was that player thinking? Like, and usually the players that are making errors are usually thinking about something logical, but it doesn't pan out correctly. And so the toxicity now stems from the fact that everyone else is so invested into the game because of how their rating is, that small mistakes can lead to frustration and possible anger. Okay? So this is essentially what's happening right now, right? And so the way you want to actually find success when it comes to this kind of thing is you want to start trying to allocate certain let's say resources to aspects that actually matter, right? So let's say, for example, that so the first question I'd like to ask is that a day that you probably haven't done anything physical, but you were doing a lot of mental work. Like, let's say you were at work and you had a lot of like computer work to do, or you had a lot of thinking to do, or you had like a lot of like non-physical stress on your mind in some cases, right? And when that ends up happening, usually it does take a little bit of your energy, right? In the sense where you might get physically tired. So I don't know about the whole sciences behind everything, but I'm pretty sure that the brain 20% is, sorry about that, the brain about uses, I think, 20% of our overall energy, or it's like 20 pounds or something. I'm not entirely sure, but the brain does use a good amount of our energy. Now, because this is the case, if we start allocating certain thought processes to aspects about the game that don't really matter, then we're actually using brain power incorrectly, right? So maybe we have like 70% brain power, right? We can use, or like 70% or 70 attention points that we can use. I go over attention points in my earlier videos if you don't know what that is, and I'll probably cover it again eventually. But let's say you have 70% brain power or 70% attention points. If you're tilting, right? If you're tilting, if you're frustrated or if you're angry, a lot of this energy is now dedicated to actually getting frustrated and angry about the game, as every thought process you have actually ends up absorbing a little bit of this, let's say this hypothetical number. And so then what ends up happening is the actual game, let's say that again we're going to refer to as AG, you can't allocate resources to this, and then this is where you begin to falter. And so again, in order to remedy this, you can, first of all, there's two ways, right? You can do certain meditation practices, right? The second way is you just become straight up more knowledgeable and just more competent at the game. Okay? So again, this is going to be the end of the video. I just wanted to cover these few topics. The idea again is the root of all tilt. Just to summarize it, you're tilting because of your lack of knowledge, because you see a solution or you see a problem, you aren't able to come up with a solution, and so because of that, automatically you then turn to frustration. And so then again, in higher MMR play versus lower MMR play, people have different ideas of the game, and so the politics within a team are actually a lot more different, because then with 5 low elo players versus 5 high elo players, the game is more the idea is more centralized, versus in the initial with low MMR players, the game is more diverse in how people think about it, and that's why they're in low MMR, because they're not thinking about the game correctly. And so when those incorrect concepts clash within each other, then finding a solution is usually not something you can do. And so if you are in MMRs like silver to diamond, it's probably best not to just argue with your teammates, because they don't know any better, and chances are you may not even know any better. And so yeah, and then the last topic is finally allocating your energy to the right concepts, to the concepts that actually matter, because when you wake up, you only have a limited amount of energy and points and brain power, and it is crucial that you allocate these things to the concepts in your life that actually matter. So or the variables in your life that actually matter. So for example, the game. Instead of thinking about some nonsense, just think about the game. If you have a lot of work to do and you're worried about that work, or let's say you have a school assignment due, do that first before you jump into the game, so that your mind does not allocate its own resources to variables that don't actually help you inside of the game. Okay? Anyways, that is it for today. That is the end of this video. I will be posting more videos like this eventually if people like this stuff, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Alright, see ya, bye!